Oh, yeah. Is it Thursday already? Andor, Season 2, Episode 1, 2, and 3 are all here. And I must say, well, we will be talking about spoilers, of course, but I must say, R.I.P. Brasso. R.I.P. Brasso, chat. We had quite the last couple days with 3 episodes of Andor, breaking it all down, doing all this crazy stuff because, yes, we are off to a great start. Not good, great start when it comes to Andor Season 2. So without further ado, let's dive in to all of it. What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing on this fine Thursday afternoon? So Andor's, the first 3 episodes are all here. It's pretty much the first Andor movie of the quadrilogy of this second season. And with that, we had about 2.5 hours of Andor content to break down. So today we're going to talk about all of it, what went down, what happened, whether we liked it or we didn't like it, what aspects we liked it, what we did, and speculating for the next 9 episodes. Because yes, there's 9 episodes remaining. It is a 12-episode series. We have 9 episodes left. And let's not forget, there's a year gap. So a lot of those loose ends, which we'll get to, the take-homa and all that stuff, all those loose ends, they won't really be tied up next week, because next week will be a year later, a year after where we just ended in episode 3. So a lot of time will have passed since take-homa went floating away with Cinta as his pilot. But we'll get to all that in a little bit. Before we do, though, let's say hi to everybody in the chat, shall we? Okay. JC, what is up? Sealy, how we doing? KG, what is up? Brandon Baker in the house. Kit Fisto, how we doing? The Lowdown, what is up? Aaron, what is up? Joe, how we doing? WUV Grad in the house. Holly, what is up? Fearless, how we doing? Freddie in the house. Jeannie from Tahini, what is up? B-Man, how we doing? Tafari Tano in the building. Starship 66, what is up? Ian, how we doing? Navarro, how we doing? Star Wars Santa in the house. All right, if you know the deal. If I missed you, just yell at me in the chat. Let's give everybody a nice little
Hello there.
General Kenobi.
Okay, so I want to start out this stream the only way we know how, and that is with a poll. So we've now had about, 40 some odd hours to think about this 3-episode arc. Think about this first movie of the second season of Star Wars. So, with that being said, what did you think of Andor Season 2, Episodes 1, 2, and 3? Did you love them? Did you like it? Were you like, meh, I mean, it's all right? Or did you, and I certainly hope you didn't, but did you hate it? Hated it! What do we think? What do we think, chat? Tell me in the chat. And actually, let's do something that we didn't do during the watch party or any of the breakdowns. Tell me on a scale of 1 to 10 what you rank all 3 episodes. Not just episode 1, not just episode 2, not just episode, all 3 combined. What do you give the ranking for the premiere of Andor? Episode 1, I gave an 8.8 out of 10. Definitely watching it through the second time, I think episode 1 was a lot better than I remembered. Episode 2, I think I gave a 8.3 maybe. Episode 2 is my least favorite, but still an 8.3 is very, very high. And then episode 3, I gave it 9.5. Episode 3 perfectly brings together all those 4 different arcs. 4 different arcs that are going on at the same time. Brings them all sort of together in their own sort of ways. The parallels between Mon Mothma and Bix, we'll get to all of that. But all of it came to the perfect ending in that 3rd episode with a want for more with Brazzos' death and all the stuff with take-homa and stuff like that. There's obviously going to be more story to come, but how they are connecting these year gap arcs is very, very cool. So episode 3 for me was like a 9.5. Altogether, I'd probably be around a 8.9, 9-ish if you're rounding up. So yeah, all in all, quite the start to the season. When you compare it to this 3-episode arc to start the first season, it's like night and day. So many people looked at that first arc and actually stopped watching Andor season 1, which is just wrong because you get to Aldani and Arkina 5 and Marva's speech and you're like, what have I missed? But the first arc of Andor season 1 is a slow one. That's for sure. And this one is not. Come out the gate right away with this Andor already infiltrated the Empire, already stealing this TIE fighter, and it is so damn cool. Get to see a lot of different prototype TIE fighters in these 3 episodes, and where there was almost no real connections to other projects in season 1. I mean, there was a few. You had the gallery, which we see again in these first three episodes. You had the gallery, Luthen's gallery, with a bunch of Easter eggs in it. But not really much else in terms of connections to other projects in season 1. Season 2 already is connecting all over the place to all these. Oh, okay. I'll get to that in 1 second. Season 2 already is connecting all over the place to Star Wars Rebels and the Rakatan Empire again. Oh my God, it's crazy. We'll get to all of it. But first things first, Muhammad Ali. Oh, okay. What's up? With a very generous $5 are you the Muhammad Ali? Says, thanks for the stream. Love the first 3 episodes. Well, thank you, Muhammad, for the very generous $5 holla. Super chats, memberships keep the lights on over here. And speaking of memberships, we got to welcome back your pal Joe to the people who love Star Wars. Your pal Joe. Welcome to the people who love Star Wars. Welcome to the people who love Star Wars. Your pal Joe, I appreciate it quite a bit. And Muhammad Ali, I appreciate that as well. Yeah, so right off the bat, I look at the poll and it says 65% of you guys loved the first 3 episodes. And that's what you like to see. When we talked about over the weekend at Star Wars Celebration, all these great projects that are coming out, so many people were commenting and making these sort of quick jabs, if you will, about all the projects that were announced because they go, oh, I'll believe it when it's released. All these announcements mean nothing because they're all just going to get canceled, blah, blah, blah. But Andor Season 2 is just yet another project to add to the list of things that didn't get canceled and things that are extraordinarily good that have come from this whole Disney Star Wars. I get it. George Lucas sold the company in 2012 and things changed. But to take Star Wars and to split it into 2 different groups of before Disney and after Disney is just wrong at this point. But will this message make the Wilhelm scream? Yes, it will. Glad to be back on the road to 24 months. 20-month membership badge is absolutely insane. But let's talk about episode 1 first. So I think the only way we can really break this whole thing down is by episode. So episode 1, we get introduced to all of our characters, the ensemble, if you will, and they're all in different places. You have 4 main arcs going on across these first 3 episodes. Now, when we see these characters again a year later, maybe it's different, but for the first 3 episodes, it's 4 different arcs. You have the Cassian arc, where he eventually goes to Yavin. Spoiler alert. I really didn't think it was going to be Yavin, but still, we'll talk about it. You have Cassian on Yavin, Cassian stealing the TIE fighter, and he doesn't meet up with Bix until the final scene of the last episode. So you have that arc. You have the Bix and Brasso and B2 and Wilmon on Mina Row, the farming planet. That's the second one. You have Mon Mothma, Luthen, Vel, Cinta, all those Tacoma, all those characters are at the wedding. So that's your third one. And the fourth one, and honestly, probably the coolest one is Dedra. Dedra, Cyril's mom, Krennic, the Empire side of things. So you have these 4 major storylines going on at the same time through the course of 3 episodes, all intertwined in different ways, and all culminating in episode 3. But you start off with the Wilhelm Scream will never get old, chat. Andy K with a very generous $5 holla says, let's celebrate what we love. Wait, what? That we love Star Wars, sorry, with a new Star Wars season. Play the celebration theme. Wait, what? Play the celebration theme? I'm confused. I'm confused. NK, I appreciate the $5 haul. I really, really do. Oh, you mean the membership stream thing? The theme for the membership thing? Oh, sure. Hit it! Oh, you guys can't hear the Wilhelm Scream. That's on me. That's on me, chat. My fault. You want to know why you couldn't hear the Wilhelm Scream? I just fixed it, so if anybody wants to send anything else. Yeah, no, that's my fault. My fault, chat. My fault. I muted the bar that makes the Wilhelm Scream because when we were doing the watch party, you guys can't hear the Disney Plus. That's on me, chat. From here on out, you will be able to hear it, though. Yeah. Okay. But getting back to it. So we open up on this Imperial prototype place for making TIE fighters. And Cassian is already infiltrated in the episode's called 1 year later. So immediately you realize that it is 1 year later because Cassian's now a leader in the rebellion. He's no longer just joining the rebellion because that's where we left him off at the end of season 1. He's now a leader. And you sort of see that here in this first episode. And I'll show you guys this. You sort of see that here in the first episode. There it is. I hauled you with a very generous $2 haul. I appreciate that. It says somehow the Scream has returned. Indeed. But you meet this character, and her name is Naya, I think. Somebody help me out in the chat. I think it's Naya. And she is joining the rebellion to an extent, and Cassian is using her to sort of steal this TIE fighter. And you immediately realize that Cassian is sort of a leader now in this rebellion. And he gives her some inspirational words, and then we get the cool action sequences of him stealing the TIE fighter. Now, this TIE is in us also. Let me pull this up. Got some really cool stuff here. Lucasfilm is on top of the ball when it comes to this Andor Season 2. They released these 3 things, which we're going to all sort of read here. So they've released this, which is Andor Explained, episode 1 through 3, and it explains a lot of the stuff, and we'll get to that in a second. They also posted this, Secrets from the Set, so it's sort of behind-the-scenes Easter eggy type stuff, and Costumes of Andor Season 2. So Lucasfilm knows that they have a hit on their hands with this show. They're really pumping stuff out, and not even that. This is crazy. So this is at
the beginning of the season.
Andor Season 2 Declassified. So this sort of gives us the information about episode 1 through 3 and what's going on. But we'll watch that in a minute. Let's actually, yeah, why not? Let's read this first. Andor Explained. So this is the StarWars.com article of explaining the first 3 episodes in a way. In Andor, Cassian Andor continues his path towards his heroic rebel destiny. With the first 3 episodes out now on Disney Plus, join us at StarWars.com as StarWars.com digs into the making of the leader. So, of course, spoilers for the first 3 episodes. A year has passed since Marva Andor was laid to rest. Her posthumous words, chat English, fight the Empire, inciting the riot on Ferrix in the finale of season 1, who has her son, Cassian, become in her absence. Well, a year later, we meet back up with Cassian, and he is stealing a TIE fighter. In the 3-episode premiere of Andor Season 2, we learn how much Cassian has changed since he turned himself in to Luthen, begging to be put out of his misery or taken in for a greater purpose. Cassian is more confident in the mission, showing leadership qualities in this first episode, even when he's being held captive by an offshoot rebel cell. Those rogues too busy fighting amongst themselves to even begin fighting the Imperial threat. We'll get to the sort of meaning behind those people on Yavin 4 in a second, but the fact that Yavin comes so far in the 4 years that it takes to go from the beginning of this season to Rogue One, it's just genius writing yet again from Tony Gilroy, which seems to happen quite a bit in these shows, but, you know, it must be said. Fighting among themselves. Meanwhile, Mon Mothma grapples with the personal cost of mounting a rebellion, her sorrows simmering beneath the forced joy and revelry, of her daughter Leda's nuptials. So in the wedding itself, and we see in episode 3 specifically, Mon Mothma almost regret all of her decisions. In episode 3, we see her go to her daughter and say, you don't have to do this. And that's not really her trying to help her daughter. She's the one who's setting her daughter up for the betterment of the rebellion. Like, she's not specifically talking to her daughter there. She's almost talking her way, or trying to talk her way, out of the situation that she's found herself in. She now, with this whole Tacoma thing and Luthen being there, and it's all really becoming a reality, what she's putting herself into, she's almost trying to back her way out in that conversation with her daughter, where she's telling her, you don't have to go out there. It will look like it won't be a bad thing. Like, it will be fine. Like, people will applaud you. Like, it's fine. You don't have to do this. But she's only doing it because Mon Mothma needs her to do it for the rebellion. So it's sort of like her trying to go back on her word type thing. Yeah. So we meet this character behind enemy lines at the Sinar, I forget how to pronounce it, test facility. Cassian shows courage behind enemy lines, giving this new recruit Naya a prep talk before boldly stealing the experimental TIE Avenger right out of the Imperial hangar. The Empire cannot win, he tells her. You'll never feel right unless you're doing what you can to stop them. You're coming home to yourself. So pretty much Cassian is telling her what he went through over this last year. And this is how they're going to explain these big time jumps. Next week, when we're like, oh, what happened to Tacoma? There will be like a one-off line in a conversation between Mon Mothma and Luthen or something, where she's like, is that why you had to kill Tacoma? If he dies, which we'll get to. But whatever happens to Tacoma, that will be explained a year later, just like in passing. Like, we won't get a full explanation of everything that happens in the year between these episodes, but they'll do a good job of sort of explaining it, if that makes sense. And this is that same way. This is Cassian pretty much telling us what he's been going through for the last year. The reasoning that he's fighting the Empire. And he's just telling this other character by also telling the audience what's been happening. So he's coming home to himself, and you can't really live with yourself if you're not trying to stop them. And that's what he's been doing the last year. And they're just explaining that through him telling Naya. It takes a certain level of backbone and bravery, chat, English, God, to pull this off. And the theft is reminiscent of Cassian's earlier infiltration on Aldhani. Although this time he is flying solo. He doesn't have a whole team with him. Kind of poetic because the rest of that team did die on Aldhani. But what are you going to do? That doesn't mean it's easy. Although he does not hesitate, Andor is clearly nervous once he gets into the control room. He also he didn't know what he was stealing. He thought he was just stealing a tie. He didn't know it was going to be some brand new tie that he didn't know how to control. He had no idea how to fly this thing. And that was pretty cool, getting to see him like learn it as he goes type deal. But yeah. Then we get to what eventually gets revealed to be Yavin 4. Tell me in the chat, did you know that this was Yavin 4? And be honest. Don't sit here and lie to me, chat. Did you know that it was Yavin? Because to me, I thought it was going to be Kenari the whole time. Especially with the trailers, I thought it was going to be Kenari, him looking for his sister. Still don't think that sister thing is gone, but I definitely didn't think it was Yavin 4. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, of course I knew. No, I didn't know. That was a great reveal, showing how Yavin 4 comes so far by Rogue One, because it's the Rebel base. But right now, it's just a small section of a few rebels that are fighting amongst themselves. They can't even focus on fighting the Empire, like this article says, because they're fighting so much against each other. That's pretty cool. But after a rough landing in a familiar jungle moon, Cassian's troubles are compounded when instead of his contact, he met a band of rebels starving and stranded on the planet, turning on each other when they desperately need to pull together to find a way to escape. So instead of helping Cassian or using Cassian in the tie that he brought them to escape, they fight amongst each other and kill each other, and it doesn't really work. This is a great message for Cassian, but a great message for just the rebellion and the state of the rebellion, because Cassian does talk about how they've even provided these guys with supplies. Like this section of the rebellion and Cassian's section of the rebellion have had communications and have had, I guess, meetings, and yet they're so different. Currently, at this point, for BBY in the galaxy, the rebellion is so spread out. It's all over the place. You even look at it because Star Wars Rebels, the animated series, takes place almost the exact same time as Andor Season 2. In that section of Rebels, Kanan Jarrus, Ezra Bridger, Harrison Dulles, Sabine, Zeb, those guys are way different than Luthen and Cassian in Mon Mothma. Yes, they're both considered technically rebels, but they're very, very different. And that's where we see the rebellion right now. Divided, spread out across the galaxy, and not together at all. And this is the perfect example of that on Yavin 4, where Cassian finds himself captured by these guys. Yeah. And of course, Five Hands, the Star Wars version of rock, paper, scissors. We're going to all have to learn that. Yeah. I thought it was Andor, waiting for some Ewoks. That would have been crazy. So then we get Tranquility Broken. So for the last year, Bix, Wilmon's girlfriend, Brasso, and Cassian, because Cassian does refer to this place, Mina Row, as his home. For the last year, these characters have been living on Mina Row, farming, staying away from the Empire, living their own lives. Yes, Cassian has been involved with the rebellion quite a bit, and so is Bix, because Leia has communication with Bix on Mina Row. And obviously Cassian's on a mission for the rebellion. But they're living out their lives far away from the Empire, or at least so they thought. Because the Empire, well, they arrive. Meanwhile, on Mina Row, we get a glimpse of the life Cassian and his fellow Ferrix survivors deserve. A largely peaceful existence embraced by the new community of grain farmers. So this is much like where we leave our characters in the Bad Batch. Clone Force 99 is on the island of Pabu, and they are just living a happy life. It's not until the Empire comes around for these characters when they're thrown back into the game. Now, do I think that the Bad Batch will be thrown back into the game? Probably not. Probably not. But it's a very similar thing. The life that these people deserve is a life of peacefulness and happiness as a farmer. But it's not the one they get, because the Empire comes and, well, all hell breaks loose. Bix is a woman haunted and at night is visited by Dr. Gorst in her nightmares. Now, this was a pretty crazy scene when it's sort of the POV shot and Gorst is walking into the house and you see him cross the mirror. It was like a jump scare. I was like, what the hell? I do think, because we've broke down all these trailers a million different times, in one of those trailers, and I'm never going to be able to find which one it was, but in one of the trailers, we do see what looks to be Dr. Gorst being tortured by the same device that tortures Bix in season 1. So what I think's going on here is Bix is getting her revenge this season. We already saw her just absolutely destroy that guy at the end of episode 3, which was great, because she killed him. Yeah, I said it. But Dr. Gorst and Dedra specifically, they did some pretty horrible stuff to Bix in the first season. And Bix is going to get her revenge in this second season for all that stuff. And that's why I think we are reminded in the first scene of when we see Bix, we're reminded of what Dr. Gorst did to her with this nightmare scene. So I think Bix will be getting her revenge in this second season, but only time will tell. But she finds some semblance of peace during the daylight hours. She uses her skills that she honed on Ferrix to keep the farming equipment running on the tranquil Agarian world. Yeah, sure. Brasso, R.I.P., and Wilmot have found romance with 2 local women, and Bix refers to Cassian as her husband to stave off the threat of Imperial officers who believe they can take what they want by force. So some people were like, are they actually married? Or is she just referring to him as his husband? Like, what's the deal there? I think there is a relationship between Bix and Cassian. Do I think they're married yet? Probably not. But they could in the future. I don't know. Here's the deal. Let's look at the facts, chat. Rogue One. You know who's not in Rogue One? Luthen. You know who's not in Rogue One? Bix. You know who's not in Rogue One? Wilmot. B2. Vel. Cinta. Cyril. Dedra. So we just got to look at the facts, chat. A lot of those characters I just named are all going to die in this second season. So all the attachments you have, like a character like Brasso, throw them out the window. It's not going to be happy times by the end of this season. Cassian talks about it in Rogue One. He says he's lost everything. Because he has. He already lost his mom. He just lost his best friend. He's probably going to lose his girlfriend by the end of this season. The death is not going to stop. Because by the time of Rogue One, these characters, other than Saw Gerrera, Mon Mothma, and Cassian, that's it. Other than those 3 characters, all these other ones are going to die. I guess Krennic can be added to that list too. But all of them are going to die. Or live on a farm. Let's talk about B2 really quickly. B2, he sort of gets sidelined in this 3rd episode. Yes, Melshi too. That's true. Melshi's still going to live. B2 gets sidelined. They leave him behind on Mina Row. Do you think we will not be seeing any more B2 for the rest of the season? Tell me in the chat. Do you think B2 is left behind for good, chat? He's done? There's some fans that think still B2's memories could be transferred into K2. I'm not the biggest believer in that theory anymore, just because the personalities of the 2 droids are very, very different. And droids are just programming pretty much with their own personalities. So the personality should be the same. Now, the argument against that would be, well, K2, all he wants to do is protect Cassian specifically. Because, like, in Rogue One, he's like, Jin, I'll help you. Cassian said I had to. Like, he's always about Cassian. And B2 would look after Cassian. So maybe, but I don't know. Really? So you think B2 is done? He's retired? They're going to come back for B2. Okay. B2 is Chopper? And that's why he's so angry? Oh, I don't think so. B2 is very happy playing with the kids and the other droids. He's safe, and he is thankful. I don't know. Because B2 is so sad that Cassian wasn't home. Yes, he's happy there because all of his friends were there. He likes Brasso. He likes Bix. He likes the kids and the droids. But Cassian is his family. And now he's just going to live the rest of his life on Mina Row by himself? See, that's just sad to me. I'd rather him be with Cassian. Nice shirt, Mike. Thank you. It says sarcasm and tech support since 1977. R2 is the GOAT. R2 walked so that Chopper could run. Yeah. Okay. But that's just the B2 of it all. Let's get back to this. So, I don't think they're married, but we are going to get quite the relationship in this second season. But it's those invasive. iHodger with a very generous $2 holla says, may the Force be 2 with you. I appreciate it. The Imperial is conducting a census on Mina Row that shatters the illusion of peace for this small band of survivors. The communication cut off, and having raised Imperial suspicions, Bix, Brasso, and Wilmon, and everyone who has helped them are at risk and the truth becomes clear. Oh, let me clear something up really quickly. At the end of episode 3, when Brasso sort of calls out Kellen, I believe his name is, Kellen, for turning them in. There's a little bit of confusion on this, and I actually had the same confusion. When I first watched the episode, I thought the same thing that some people think, and that is Kellen did not sell out the others. And the reason that Brasso goes after him and sort of they have that sort of look at each other, the reason that that happens is because he didn't sell him out, and Brasso is trying to keep Kellen safe for after the Empire, for after Bix and them get away, and then the Empire won't look for him, look for Kellen. He's trying to protect Kellen. The way that I explained it in my breakdown video, and honestly, I don't even know which is true, but I guess you guys can tell me in the chat, is at the beginning of episode 3, when Kellen and Brasso are having the conversation, and Kellen brings up Cassian's boss. He's like, can you tell Cassian and have him ask his boss if he can come help with this situation here? And Brasso's response is pretty much like, this is happening everywhere. Help is not coming. And when he says that, Kellen looks like he just pooped his pants. He's like, oh, okay. And after that, I think he does whatever he can to protect his family. And that is by selling them out. The only reason I think that is because how else would the Imperials know where Bix and Brasso live? Because they go straight to Bix. And of course, we know what happens to those officers that go straight to Bix. They die, but they know exactly where she is and exactly where Brasso should be. And when the Imperials show up at Kellen's house, they're offering them food and they look pretty distressed. So tell me in the chat, do you think Kellen sold them out, or do you think that they just somehow randomly guessed where they lived? What do we think? He saved the community? In a way. Yeah. Aaron says, yeah, the rationale makes sense, and the last look Brazos gave him lends credence to that interpretation. Yeah, they share a glance. They definitely share a glance for sure. Okay, here we go. They sold them out. They didn't sell them out. They were sold out. All right. We're kind of they didn't sell them out. Kind of split down the middle here. Well, here's the thing too is if he did sell them out, it's almost like a who can you trust type deal. Moving forward, later down the line in this story, Bix and others are not going to trust anybody. You know? I don't believe they were sold out. They mentioned earlier that they were heading that way. Okay, interesting. Maybe. I think you're right about Brazos covering for him. Could be. Brazos was just that guy, you know? He threw Brasso under the bus. Okay. He definitely turned them in. What? Bix didn't know? Huh, we're pretty split on this one. Yeah, my comment section was like, Mike, you're an idiot. Pretty much that's all I got. It's like, Mike, you're an idiot. Why? How could you possibly think that Kellen turned these people over? Are you stupid, Mike? And I was like, maybe I am. I don't know. Maybe I am. Brasso will forever be that guy. He was great. Mike, you're not an idiot. Well, thanks. Honestly, I was delusional by making that third breakdown video. My brain was completely gone, so I tried my best. I just saw it. I told it how I saw it, but they couldn't outrun the long arm of the Empire forever. So finally, they had to stand and fight, and well, that led to Brazos' death. Bix does survive. So, cause to celebrate. Now we get the wedding of it all. Which brings us to Sandrella. So these are all the different storylines that are going on at the same time, like we mentioned before. Cassian's, where he starts off stealing this, ends up on Yavin 4. Then Bix and Brasso on Mina Row. And then the celebration of the wedding with Mon Mothma and the others. And then the Empire. So you have all 4 of those different storylines going on at the same time. So, Mon Mothma, Sandrella. Lita's wedding, you got Luthen there, who's given the gift, which we'll get to in a second. Tay-Koma. Okay. Beneath the surface, Mon Mothma is beginning to break. Her childhood friend, Tay-Koma, has fallen on hard times, and she is powerless to protect him from his worst instincts. So, pretty much what's going on here is Tay has gone through some pretty rough times. His wife left him. That's the start. But he's also had some investment struggles because of his dealings with the rebellion. In season 1, we learn when Mon Mothma goes to Tay-Koma, Tay is pretty much like, my politics are a little not like yours. Because from an outside perspective, it looks like Mon Mothma's just a senator. She's not involved with the rebellion at all. But Tay-Koma is. He's been sort of on the rebels' side. And that has really affected his investments in all this other stuff and people's trust in him. And his financial side of things has been struggling because of his rebellious activities. So, when this whole thing happens, the foundation is complete and Mon Mothma is secure by pawning her daughter away to get married to Davos' son. It seems like a win-win for everybody, except for Tay-Koma. He feels like he's left behind. He doesn't get any of the rewards, if you will. And that leads to the big struggle here. That leads to Tay-Koma being like, I'm left out of this. I need to be, I guess, given some more credits, if you will, or I'm going to start talking. I'm going to start blabbing. And the problem that arises in these first 3 episodes, because Luthen is at the wedding, is Tay needs to be silenced. And the reality of the rebellion is coming very, very quickly to our old Mon Mothma. She's realizing now that her best friend from when she was a child could die because of this. So things are becoming really real really quickly for Mon Mothma at this wedding. Because Luthen's in one ear going, we're going to have to kill Tay-Koma, and Tay-Koma's in the other ear going, you're going to have to kill me, or else I'm going to start blabbing, pretty much. So, Tay-Koma seems powerless, and he's going to start going on his worst instincts. Actions that may draw undue attention to herself and others. Enter Luthen Rael. So Luthen was my favorite character in season 1. He continues to be my favorite character in season 2. So much of the conversations that are had with Luthen and around Luthen are just so important to what's going on in the story. And when you look at even side scenes, and by side scenes I mean like just random scenes where Luthen's talking to like just random people at the wedding. Like he's talking to a guy who has his kid in the Navy, and the kid in the Navy's like, he asks him where he's stationed, and he says steer guard, but we're being transferred. And Luthen's like, oh, where to? Like, he's trying to get all this information at the same time, run the rebellion, will also be this gallery owner who's supposed to be in charge of all these ancient artifacts, which we'll talk about in a second. But Luthen himself is just so interesting. In every conversation he has, you're pretty much listening intently to every single word. Yeah, absolutely. So Luthen Rael, enter him. The cleaner, if you will. With one call, Cinta leaps into action, and it clears that Tay will, and it's clear that Tay will no longer be a liability. So StarWars.com says it here. Tay-Koma will no longer be a liability as he leaves with Cinta. So tell me in the chat, do you think Tay-Koma is dead? Or are they going to find another way or do something? I don't know. What do we think? Is Tay-Koma going to die? What do we think? Yes. Yeah. All right. I see a bunch of yeses. Goodbye, Tay. Should have just slid on into Mon's DMs. Oh my God. Yeah. So everybody's saying pretty much, yes, he's going to die. I get it, and I agree with you. But here's the issue. coming into next week, which is going to be a year later, now the trust between Luthen and Mon Mothma is going to be shattered. He just killed her childhood best friend because he was having bad thoughts, because he was trying to figure out his financial situation, because he was having issues with his marriage. If he could do that to Takoma, then Luthen seems to be the new bad guy in Mon Mothma's head. We have one line from a trailer, and again, I don't know which trailer, but one of the trailers where Mon Mothma is talking to Luthen. And she's pretty much saying, I don't even know if I can trust you. I don't know what to do anymore. So Mon Mothma is really going to go through it in this next couple episodes, because now not only has Luthen, the guy she's supposed to be working with and trust, killed her best friend, but now it's most likely that the Gorman massacre stuff's going to happen, and she's going to have to deal with that. So now she's going to be like, do I even trust the people I'm working with? And I have to deal with the Palpatine being a monster and killing innocent civilians and all this crazy stuff. So Mon Mothma is really going to go through it. Now, like I just mentioned earlier, Luthen's probably going to die by the end of this season. Don't know how, don't know why, but he will. He's the leader of the rebellion right now, and he's not even in Rogue One, so he's likely to die. What if Mon Mothma is has a part in doing that? Not saying that Mon Mothma is going to kill Luthen by any means, but maybe she has something to do with it. We'll just leave it at that. Yeah. Tay was dead before the episode ended? I don't know about that. It was Cinta that killed her? Well, true, it was Cinta, but Luthen was the one who told Cinta to do it. That's more so the issue. I thought they showed him being thrown out of the speeder, LOL. What? Hang on. What? Somebody in the comment section of one of the breakdowns said that they saw Clea use the Force in episode 3, I think it was. But I was like, no way. You're saying that they show him being thrown out? No, they don't. Do they show him being thrown out yet? Do they? No body, no death. Matthew, what's up? I don't think they do, Chet. So while Mon Mothma is dancing away at the end of this episode, drinking the Sandrella juices, whatever they may be, her best friend from her childhood is being thrown out of a flying speeder and dying. Oh, you were joking? Okay. I thought they actually did, and I just missed it. I thought they did, and I missed it. Yeah. So it does seem like, especially because StarWars.com is saying this, that clearly Takoma is going to die. He's being taken care of, if you will, by Luthen and Cinta. But the sighting is also a shock to the system for Cinta's girlfriend, Vel, because Vel and Cinta are on some pretty shaky ground. These two star-crossed lovers who never seem to get good time for each other, because they're always on missions and working for the rebellion, as was made clear in Season 1. Continuing the intensity from Season 1, it's clear that Mon's relationship with her daughter is frayed beyond repair. That was very clear in this first 2 episodes, too. There's a coldness to their private conversation. All of them. As Mon tried to give her daughter an out, she desperately wished that she had a teenage bride. She had as a teenage bride herself, the out that she had as a teenage bride herself. Instead, she met with Lita's contempt, and she was like, no, I hope you get drunk too at this wedding. Which she does, and she starts dancing and having a blast, but no, she tried. And then all of a sudden, Perrin comes out of nowhere, Mon Mothma's husband, and gives us like an incredible monologue. Out of nowhere, Perrin is like, oh yeah, I'm the best now. I'm the best. And actually, they go into it here. Yeah. Pain will find you, he says. But that's more reason to reach for the joy. There you go. We even get the Nemos music from season 1. Then we get to the Empire side of things. And honestly, this is where things get really cool. I thought, obviously, the stuff with Cyril and Dedra is like the weirdest, most cringe, greatest thing to ever happen. But the stuff with Krennic in episode 1, the whole Gorman Kyclate or Calcite is the mineral that they're trying to get from Gorman. All that stuff was incredible. So let's take a look at this. The power of the Empire. And from the clandestine meeting at the Malthine Divide, on top to the top levels of Coruscant, the Empire has only grown stronger and more corrupt. Imperial leaders, not unlike the officer who attacked Bix in the 3rd episode, take what they want, even if it means displacing the people from Gorman and strip mining their world of all its precious material resources. So the idea here, the conversation that is being had, is that there's almost a billion, right? Was it 800 million or 800,000? I don't even remember. A lot of Gormans, let's just say. A lot of Gormans, and they either have to move them or just let them die because they're going to mine the crap out of this planet, and so much so that the planet itself will lose its integrity. It was only 800,000. Okay, so a million people. A million people, still a lot. They're going to mine the hell out of this planet so much that it will lose its integrity, and the planet itself might collapse in or just get destroyed. Like, they're going to destroy this planet just for the calcite that it has on it, just because the Empire wants it. So these millions of people are just either going to die or have to get transferred from their home world because the Empire wants them to, which is wild. We get mentions of Palpatine. Krennic just said he came from a meeting with Palpatine. Still no Palpatine himself. We could be gearing towards that. Only time will tell. But the Krennic stuff in episode 1 is unbelievable. And we don't get any more Krennic for the rest of the 2 episodes. There'll obviously be more Krennic in the later episodes, but just the first 3, we only got 1 of Krennic. And on a smaller scale, Supervisor Dedra Miro, so we get a lot of Dedra in these first 3 episodes, shows her fangs to Edie, the overbearing mother of her romantic partner, Cyril. During the dinner party that is equal parts tense and also very awkward. We learn that Dedra grew up in what would later be named an Imperial Kinderblock. And that's sort of the first time we ever get a backstory as to what Dedra's life looked like before the Empire. It's always been the Empire, really. That's why she's so evil and dark. But, which honestly explains so much about her. And it's that training from her childhood that made her who she is today. A cold, calculating, emotionally bankrupt servant of the Empire who can hold her own against the likes of director Orson Krennic. And yes, even Edie, who passive-aggressively jabs, whose passive-aggressive jabs have helped mold Cyril into the sneeveling man before us. Sure. The conversation between Edie and Dedra is a great one. Seeing Dedra smile was like the creepiest thing I've ever seen in my life. It really was. Top 5 creepiest things in Star Wars, hands down, is Dedra's smile. But the whole interaction between Edie and Cyril is pretty much just Cyril's going to be led by whoever the strong person in his life is. At first it was his mom, and now it's Dedra. So he's pretty much just along for the ride. Now, we've talked about this before, but the possibility of seeing a character like Dedra or Cyril, more likely Cyril, turning to the light side, if you will. Because Cyril is really only with the Empire because he lives on Coruscant, because it's what he knows. But he's more of a guy who's right and wrong. Cassian murders 2 people in the first season, and he knows that's wrong. So he doesn't even listen to his higher-ups. He doesn't listen to his bosses that tell him to stop. looking for Cassian, and he does it anyway because he knows it's what's right. If he's at Gorman, which we know he's going to be, if he's at the Gorman Massacre and sees that the Empire just murders thousands of innocent people, he's probably not going to trust the Empire anymore. Even if, like, Dedra, the woman that he loves, is the one who gives the order, if Dedra is there on Gorman with Cyril, and she's told that she has to give the order to murder all these innocent people, I could see Cyril being like, don't do that. And Dedra's like, what do you mean, don't do that? I have to do that. It's an order. I am evil. And Cyril's like, but that's clearly wrong. Oh, hang on. We got another super chat. One second. I'll get to that. But that's clearly wrong. And I could see Cyril quickly realizing that the Empire are truly, truly evil. And his girlfriend, who he's been with now for 2 years, might be evil as well. And seeing Cyril go through that sort of processing all of that stuff would be pretty cool. And seeing him come to the light side would be pretty wild too. Maybe making some sort of sacrifice play to rescue somebody, or I don't know, something. He definitely has more of a light side to him than Dedra ever will. The loving care of his mother growing up definitely showed that. And Dedra didn't have that. Dedra's been pure Empire her entire life. She's been following orders since the age of 3, and she will continue to do that. Cyril, on the other hand, it's been shown, will not follow orders blindly. He wants to do what's right, not just what the Empire tells him to do. So I think it's possible, and it's a crazy theory, but I think it's possible that we could get maybe Cyril seeing the Gorman Massacre, seeing thousands of innocent people die, and being like, that's not right. I don't support this. I'm going to go join the rebellion. Maybe not join the rebellion, but at least make some sort of sacrifice play type deal. Yeah. But that's how I see it. Hang on, let me get to the super chat real quick, and then we'll get back to it. Darth Plagueis lives with a very generous $5 holla. I appreciate that. Says, loved the first 2 episodes. Only the first 2? Did you mean 3? I don't know. Do you think that Dedra will die by the end of season 2? It's a great question, honestly. And tell me in the chat, do you think Dedra will die in season 2? She's not in Rogue One. Now, we do see a lot of Imperial officers and higher-ups, if you will, in Rogue One. Krennic being the main villain of Rogue One and then dying to Tarkin. And Vader's even in Rogue One, too. So, do I think Dedra will die? Yes. I think it's actually important that she does. Because here's the deal. Dedra is a really cool character from season 1 moving into season 2, but her death will almost be like the chain of command. If you think about it, Tarkin dies on the Death Star, so it's not really his boss that kills him. I guess it kind of is because Palpatine gives him the job. Whatever. Tarkin kills Krennic with the Death Star. Like, he knows that Krennic is down on the surface of Scarif, but he blows him up anyway. He does it on purpose. So Tarkin killing Krennic and Krennic killing Dedra would be so poetic. So if Dedra is going to die, it will likely be to the Empire. So all the people that she's loved her entire life, the people that she's followed since she was 3 years old, all she ever knew is the Empire. And they're the ones who kill her. That would be so crazy. Just like how Krennic dies in Rogue One. That's crazy. It's just a competition of Krennic versus Tarkin, and Tarkin has a chance to kill Krennic with the Death Star, his own weapon that he created, and he does it. The same way that Cassian, in a way, helped build the Death Star, and he dies to it too. It's wild how all these characters are intertwined with the Death Star and how they die to it. It's great. But Dedra dying in season 2 is highly likely. But tell me in the chat. Tell me in the chat. Mike, I know this is a Star Wars channel, but will you see the Thunderbolts? Yeah, I'm definitely seeing the Thunderbolts. For sure. She'll be put on the Death Star, so basically death. That would be very sad. It would be like that. If Cyril or Dedra, I feel like it's more fitting for Cyril, but if Dedra got promoted to a role in the Death Star, it would be honestly just so funny. Like, you'd have to laugh because you know she's going to die there. I feel like Cyril would be more fitting for that. Like, Cyril gets this huge promotion at the end of season 2, and we're like, oh my God, he got a promotion. Yeah, Cyril. And they're like, yeah, you're promoted to the Death Star. And then it just cuts to Palpatine, and he goes, ironic. That'd be hilarious. Damien with a very generous $5 holla. I appreciate all these super chats, guys. I really, really do. Says, let's get to the bomb, the wedding gift. Okay, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. All right, since you sent to the super chat, let's talk about it. This is the wedding gift. The second time, let me pull it up actually. Put it on the screen. Let me put it on the screen. So this is the second time. Where the hell is it? The Gorman, all right, it's the second time, not Gorman. The Rakatan Empire has been mentioned in Andor. This statue is a Sandrellan statue, one of only 12 ever created. In the Rakatan Empire, when it was the Rakatan invaders on Sandrella stole these statues 25,000 years ago. So what's really cool about this is the Rakata are this ancient species that were very, very powerful. They had this massive empire that stretched across the entire galaxy, much like the Empire does now. So it's kind of symbolic in that way. But it's only been mentioned twice in live-action Star Wars. Like, it's been mentioned in books and in comic books and novels and stuff. I don't know if it's been mentioned in animation, but it's only been mentioned twice in live-action Star Wars content, and that is in Andor Season 1, when Luthen gives Cassian the Kyber Crystal, and here in Andor Season 2 with this statue. So when we think about Andor, we think about it being this ground-level rebel versus Empire type thing, not really connected to the lore of Star Wars or the Force or Jedi. But then they throw in these crazy little Easter eggs like this. And you're like, what? What is going on here? And honestly, it makes me think that there is a presence in the background of Andor in all Star Wars projects. And that presence is really named Dave Filoni, who's now the chief creative officer, who's putting these details in these shows, just sprinkling in little things like the Rakatan Empire to maybe later down the line when you make a Dawn of the Jedi movie or something, to explain what's happening there. So now when the Rakatans get introduced into Star Wars canon, like for real, 25,000 years ago, when their empire is at its peak, when that happens, you'll be like, where have I heard that name? Oh, Andor Season 2. Oh, yeah. They stole that statue from Sandrella 25,000 years ago. But it's just planting those little seeds here, there, and everywhere. It's just freaking genius. So this statue right here, although it looks really weird and almost like an owl type thing, whatever, it's really cool because it's, first of all, from the Rakatan invasion 25,000 years ago, but it also gives even more intrigue and even more to the character of Luthen. He's the one who gives this gift to Davos to give to his son. So where the hell does Luthen get stuff like this? In the gallery, in these first 3 episodes, we see Plo Koon's mask. We see Padme Amidala's head helmet thing that she has in episode 2. We see carvings of the world between worlds of the Mortis gods. In season 1, we saw Mandalorian armor, Gungan shields, Sith and Jedi holocrons. Where is he getting this stuff? Tony Gilroy has confirmed that we will learn about Luthen's backstory. And much like we learned about Dedra's backstory in these first 3 episodes and how important that is to seeing why she is the way that she is and how she will never turn on the Empire and just become even more evil as we go along here, the same way that we learned about Dedra's backstory, I think we will learn about Luthen's. And Luthen's is far more important because of the place that he is in. He's the leader of this rebellion, or at least this rebel cell that is Cassian and Mon Mothma and all this stuff. He's the leader of that. So where the hell did he come from? And how does he have all this crazy stuff? 25,000-year-old Sandrellan artifacts, Jedi and Sith holocrons, Starkiller's mask, even though Starkiller's not canon. He's pulling stuff out of Legends. He's pulling stuff out of his back pocket from Legends, chat. So the backstory for this character is going to be absolutely insane and so goddamn important. Do I think he's a Jedi? No. Do I think he's a Sith Lord? No. But it's still going to be important. Very important. Yeah. So, with that being said, these tiny little Easter eggs of Plo Koon's mask, of the Rakatan Empire, they're hinting towards something far bigger with the character of Luthen, and far bigger in terms of the story of the gallery and the story of what's to come later on in this season. Yeah. For sure. Star Wars Politics was up, says, imagine the Rakatan can shapeshift. What? And Luthen is one of them? Now that's an insane theory. that might be the craziest theory I've ever heard in my life. And for some reason, I absolutely love it. Okay. It'd be cool to get a Luthen side story, maybe animation, sort of like a Tales of the Blank. I don't know if his backstory deserves that much explanation. I feel like you can explain it. Yeah. Luthen could have been like an archaeologist like Indiana Jones. Maybe. Yeah. She's from Canary? She? Who? What? Luthen just attends every Comic-Con and buys everything he sees? Okay, Kevin. I like that. Luthen could be Kenobi's brother. I have heard that theory too. Not the biggest fan of it, but yeah. Yeah. I want to see Two Tubes do his thing. I'm sure you'll get that. No Saw Gerrera in these first 3 episodes. That was pretty interesting. Having him sort of out of the fight here. Pretty interesting. Could Luthen be a rich weirdo from Naboo who knew Palpatine back in the day and knows that he's a Sith Lord? That'd be interesting. I don't feel like he should know who Palpatine is. Or he knows who he is, but like I don't think he should have that strong of a connection to him, you know? What if Palpatine is actually Abeloth? Okay, yeah, definitely. 100%. Yeah. I think the statue is a big nanny cam. Okay, yeah. It's just a secret camera for Luthen to look over everybody. Well, what's really interesting now is that Luthen clearly has people in his rebellion all over the place. He's got Cinta driving Take Homa, and he doesn't even know it. He's got Cassian in a prototype TIE fighter factory. He has Lonnie from season 1, who is an Imperial officer who has a seat at the table at the ISB. So he has all these informants in the rebellion. I mean, in the Empire, sorry, for the rebellion. And that makes his character all that much more interesting because he's been around for a while. He's been around for quite some time. But during the time of the prequel trilogy, we don't know who Luthen is. At least, not yet. I don't know. We'll see. Luthen works for the TVA. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Clea is Andor's sister? I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Clea the Enforcer. Okay, well, let's get back to this article. Let's get back. Okay. During the dinner party. Oh, we already read that. Oh, we already read that. Okay. By the final moments of the 3rd episode, Cassian made his way back to his family. But just as season 1, he is heartbreakingly late. Although he is unable to rescue Bix, he is able to rescue Bix and Wilmon and lay several Imperial troopers to waste. He must leave B2 behind. Okay. So StarWars.com is saying he must leave B2 behind and contend with the pain of losing one of his truest friends, Brasso. A reflection of Mon's own personal sacrifice in losing Tay, You can see the pain in Cassian's eyes as he's forced to leave Brazos' body behind, foregoing the customary funeral honors befitting such a stand-up Phyrexian citizen, as we know from season 1 when Mon Mothma gets turned into a brick that is later a very emotional moment. There will be no stone for Brasso, but his sacrifice will help build the foundation of the rebellion. This is an incredible line right here. There is no stone for Brasso, but his sacrifice will help build the foundation of the rebellion. Damn, that is good. So although his body itself is not turned to stone, he will be a building block. That is pretty awesome. So there you have it. The same struggles of Mon Mothma reflecting on the loss of Tacoma and getting drunk at the wedding and dancing her heart away. We got Brazos dying and being a stone to help build the foundation of the rebellion. Pretty damn good. I mean, talk about just good writing. Incredible. Okay, now this sort of gives into the Easter eggs of it all. This second season is already filled with Easter eggs, and it gives some informations and secrets of Andor Season 2, so let's take a look at this. Clea and Luthen knew everything about Cassian in Season 1. They knew he was from Kenari. It makes no sense for Clea to be his sister and being the one who wants to have him killed off if she remembered him. Oh, yeah, absolutely not. If she's his sister, why would she kill him off, you know? Okay. But the secrets of Andor Season 2, Week 1 trivia. 5 hands. If 5 hands, the game that Maya Pelly's brigade played to solve the internal dispute deep in the jungle, looks familiar, that's because Sam Gilroy, Tony Gilroy's brother, based it off the playground staple, rock, paper, scissors. So it is indeed rock, paper, scissors, chat, just Star Wars' version. He even explains that he was at a family party and he came up with how they should start playing rock, paper, scissors in the woods. So, as the characters grew, Sam Gilroy crafted a Star Wars spin-off of the hand game, not only by introducing alternative chat English gestures, but also adding several layers of complexity. The 5 hands, there are 15 animal gestures, including Rancor, Snork, and Snoozebird. What? Which are displayed by 2 players in 3 rounds, overseen by a referee. So if you want to learn 5 hands, there you go. You can learn the rules right there. Okay, but here are the cool Easter eggs. So, the same set that was used to do the Occ 2 stuff with the Millennium Falcon, above. In addition to their home base at Pinewood Studios, Andor Season 2 returned to Long Cross Studios in England, last used for the Millennium Falcon with the Occ 2 Island stuff, and Canto Bight Casino entrance that was built in 2017 for The Last Jedi. So they went back to the studio that hasn't been used since 2017 for The Last Jedi. Rogue One in Solo A Star Wars Story, co-costume design Glyn Dillon returned as a concept artist. Whoa. As a concept artist for Andor Season 2 under the costume design of Michael Wilkinson. So there you have the same costume designer. Hang on, we got a super chat. Rose with a very generous $5 holla. Wow. Says, can you do a poll about Brasso and Kellen? Did Kellen betray Brasso or did Brasso being betrayed to protect Kellen's family? Okay, we can do that poll because this poll's been up for quite some time and I don't think it's going to move anywhere. Let's do it. By the way, what did you think of the first 3 episodes of Andor Season 2? 67% of you loved it. 24% of you liked it. Right there, that is quick maths. 91% of you either liked it or loved it. 6% said meh, and 2% hated it with over 116 votes. All right, let's do this. What happened at the end of episode 3? Kellen betrayed Brasso and the others. Or, I can't have that many characters. Hang on. Brasso and Bix, we'll just put for today's sake. Or Brasso was protecting Kellen when he tries to go after him. That's not how you spell protecting. Protecting. There you go. Protecting Kellen when he tries to go after him like that. So the first option is Kellen betrayed them by ratting them out to the Empire, and the other one is Brasso lashing out on Kellen was to protect him. Which one do you think it is? Tell me in the chat. All right. But now that I've been so rudely interrupted, God. I appreciate it, Rose. Okay. In terms of other little cool Easter eggs, the TIE Avenger prototype above that Cassian steals was a rare full interior and exterior TIE fighter setup built. And this was built fully, as you can see right there. And also, it looks very familiar because this TIE Avenger prototype design was in part initially inspired by Kylo Ren's TIE Whisper, that's seen in Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. The TIE Avenger was first featured in 1994's TIE Fighter computer game from LucasArts. So it is sort of the early day model of what eventually becomes Kylo Ren's ship in Rise of Skywalker, but its also first appearance was in the TIE Fighter game. Pretty cool. Then we get some other familiar TIE fighters that chase down Cassian when he's stealing the TIE Avenger. The TIE fighters above that chase Cassian from the Imperial testing base are the TIE Advanced prototypes as seen in Star Wars Rebels. So we were actually right about this because somebody in the chat was saying that it looks like the TIE fighters that are chasing Cassian in the trailer, it looks like the Inquisitor's TIE fighters, because it is. These TIE Advanced are the ones that the Inquisitors fly in in Rebels. So we were right, but we were also wrong. There was no Inquisitors in the cockpit, but they were the same TIE fighters, these TIE Advanced prototypes. Yeah. The jungle clearing where Cassian encounters the Maya Pelli rebels was a section of Long Crossing Studios. Okay, cool. This thing is pretty awesome. So the hippo-like Yavinian, sure, from Yavin, Yavinian Dudar. The Dudar was a creature that attacked the Maya Pelli rebels, was named after the designer Alexander Dudar, who designed it. So this hippo-like creature. At first, I thought it was the creature from Attack of the Clones, the one that they put Obi-Wan Kenobi up against in the Colosseum type stuff. But it was not. It's a new creature on Yavin. I mean, look at this thing. Like that's a pretty big tooth right there, chat. Pretty cool. Okay. Above, the fields of Mina Row were an ancient rye planet, planted specifically for Andor Season 2. So they planted these fields. Like they actually did all this. It's almost like in Interstellar, where Christopher Nolan doesn't like to use CGI, so he planted all those cornfield in Interstellar. That's the same thing here. They planted this whole field of rye. Pretty cool. It took a full year to grow all this, and due to the strikes in 2023, the crop had been harvested, so they had to do green screens for the reshoots, but they did make the entire fields of this stuff. The interior was built, assembled, okay, that's cool too. Oh, this is pretty cool. Another little Easter egg here. ILM modified this cruiser from The Mandalorian Season 2 to become the Imperial scan cruiser that we see in the sky. So this was the cruiser that we saw with Bo-Katan in that episode in Mando Season 2 when we first get introduced to Bo-Katan in live action. And it's the same design, or at least the same model, that we see here as the scanner in Andor Season 2. So it's been reworked, but it's the same model. Brasso's speeder was mounted on a vehicle which allowed him to accelerate and fly completely in camera, as opposed to doing VFX, which are typically what the speeder bike scenes look like. So this is actually him on sort of a speeder bike that's blasting through the fields. So it's all real. Like they really took the time for Season 2 to do that, to actually have that. the realism of it all. Practical effects. This handsome fella here was an unused design for Aldani. There you go. So they're reusing designs from season 1. Whoa. I Haja with a very generous super chat says, somehow Dudar returned. What? What do you mean Dudar returned? The mountain range that envelops Santa Maria is an active... Wait, what? Okay, in Spain. So this mountain range in Spain is the exact one seen in Sandrella. Okay, cool. I didn't know that. The more you know. The wedding above, they dance to the same music from Nemos from season 1, which is pretty cool too because it's almost the same thing going on here. Mon Mothma is letting loose, and so is Cassian in season 1. Some of the wedding guests' speeders were reused from production of The Acolyte, a series that had previously reused some of Andor season 1's speeders during their shooting. Okay, so we're reusing some of the stuff. Pretty cool. They go into the costume stuff there too, which is cool. The view outside of Director Krennic's secret meeting conference room was hand-painted. Okay, there we go. Going back to the hand-painted stuff from the old days. I like that. How about the parallels between this and Leia? Two very different characters, but still the same scenes nonetheless. And also a design taken from Spain. 70s prototype sort of kitchen, futuristic kitchen type deal. This is pretty interesting. A ring-shaped docking bay, not unlike the docking bay 94 from Mos Eisley, where we see the Millennium Falcon, was made for Luthen's Fondor Hallcraft for season 2 by the art department, but was never seen on screen. So the big fan favorite from season 1 was Luthen's ship, as it has freaking lightsabers coming out the side of it and absolutely just destroying things. And it became a really big deal. People loved it. So I'm sure you're going to get a lot more in this second season of his ship and it sort of doing its thing. But nothing so far through the first 3 episodes. Whoa, I did not mean to click on that. Clea uses this fractal radio in the back room of Luthen's gallery, which was practically inspired by an old telephone operator's switchboard. Yeah, I did put that in my breakdown video earlier too, and it's pretty cool. Because Star Wars was first built in 1977. So a lot of the old technology that we see, like at the Battle of Hoth or all that stuff, it's older technology reworked to be futuristic and to look like a galaxy far, far away. And they're still sort of doing that. This is a switchboard from an operator's table or operator's switchboard from the real world, but just sort of transformed into the Star Wars world. So a little bit of the Easter eggs there. They don't go into the whole gallery or anything like that with the Plo Koon's mask and stuff, but still pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah. All right. But let's talk about the reaction online. Okay. Did people think that this was a great start to the season? Well, we saw what our community thinks. About 91% of you liked the episodes, 67% of you loving the episodes, thinking it was a great start to the season. But what did other people think? Now, the reviews have been out for a couple days now, and a lot of these... What's up, Alex? How we doing? A lot of these media companies and content creators got the first 12 episodes, all 12 episodes of season 2 they've seen. And at first, I was like, why all 12? And then it clicked. The reason that they've seen all 12 episodes is because you have to see all 12 for it to be a complete story. Currently, right now, Andor Season 2 sits at a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. 98. I really loved the first 3 episodes, don't get me wrong. I'd probably give it like a 8.8 to a 9 out of 10. The first 3 episodes would not have been ranked at a 98%. So what Lucasfilm wanted to do, and they successfully did it, was put all 12 episodes out to the people who were reviewing it so they could watch all 12, because this back half of this season is going to be absolutely incredible, and they wanted to get the best score possible. So the best way to do that is by giving them the entire season. So the critics, the Rotten Tomato people, these people that have given their reviews have seen all 12 episodes, and they're saying it's one of the best Star Wars projects ever. It might be the best Star Wars project ever. It's got a 98 out of 100, so it's ranked the highest Star Wars project of all time. But they've seen all 12 episodes. So things are going to heat up quite a bit, because this first 3-episode arc is not a 98 out of 100. It's not bad by any means. It's great, but it's not the top tier that these people are talking about. So actually, I have this thing pulled up here. Let's take a look at this. So here are a bunch of different reviews for Andor Season 2. And this will give us sort of a little bit of a what's happening in the future of this season, but also what happened in the first. It's at a 99 now? Holy crap, are you serious? Hang on. Andor Season 2. It's at a 99 now. That's crazy talk. 99 out of 100. Out of 100. Now, don't get me wrong. I love me some Andor. And I think this second season can be better than the first season. But 99 out of 100? You're talking the best, if not one of the best projects to ever exist. Not for Star Wars, for anything ever. Anything ever. Now, the 80% for audience score checks out. That's probably a bunch of people who really love Star Wars, a bunch of people who really love crapping on Star Wars, and a bunch of people in the middle. And through the first 3 episodes, an 80 is a pretty solid score, especially when you have just people who go to crap on Star Wars for no reason at all. Yeah. But a 99 out of 100, you're talking what we could be seeing over the next 3 weeks could be the greatest Star Wars to ever exist, which is a bold statement. Yeah. I think it's some of the best Star Wars writing. Oh, for sure. I mean, the writing itself is just masterful. But to say it can compete with some of the greatest Star Wars content ever, like Revenge of the Sith to me is my favorite Star Wars movie. It's up there with Rogue One, Empire Strikes Back, A New Hope, Return of the Jedi. Those 5 projects in particular, I find it very hard to believe that Andor can surpass them. Now, if it does, and that would be absolutely phenomenal. But I'm going to see Revenge of the Sith tomorrow. Actually, tell me in the chat, do you got tickets to go see Revenge of the Sith? Revenge of the Sith is celebrating its 20th anniversary, and it's going back to the theaters. Actually, this is pretty funny. Let's not get too sidetracked here, but check this out. This is funny. Star Wars posted this today.
Which movie?
One ticket, please.
Take a look at this.
One ticket, please.
For which movie?
One ticket, please.
For which movie?
So, the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith is tonight and into tomorrow and for probably the next week or so. So I'm going to watch that. And this is my favorite Star Wars movie of all time. To put this Andor Season 2 at a 99 out of 100, it makes me think that it can rival stuff like Revenge of the Sith. It can rival stuff like The Empire Strikes Back, because even those projects don't have a 99 out of 100 on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, granted, it is just the critic score, so that's sort of to be taken with a grain of salt, but a 99 out of 100 is a 99 out of 100. If anybody, even somebody I've never heard of before, tells me that a show is a 99 out of 100, I'm going to at least check out that show. Because if anybody has that high of a praise for a show, it must be pretty good. And so far, it is good. Don't get me wrong. The first 3 episodes were a great start to this season. But to get to a 99 out of 100, it's going to be insane. So with that, I do have these other reviews that are pulled up here. So let's take a look at this. This was posted a couple days ago, so it was at a 98% when this was posted. Andor Season 2 has been certified fresh by Rotten Tomatoes with a 98% rating. Was less than a day away from the premiere, so this is before the premiere. Andor Season 2 has been certified fresh by Rotten Tomatoes. At the time of writing this, 55 reviewers have made it to a 98%. Plenty of reviewers and journalists have high praise for the second season of Andor, with many putting it above the first season. So let's take a look at some of these. So Emily from The Observer says the second season somehow eclipses the first. In an impressive fashion, building a masterful narrative arc that is undeniable in its persistence to a rising fascism around the world. So, yeah. So, what's crazy about this is when you look at season 1 and season 2 and compare the two. When you compare the two seasons, right off the bat, the first 3 episodes of season 1 versus the first 3 episodes of season 2 is already winning. Season 2, right now, first 3 episodes versus, tell me in the chat. Do you think the first 3 episodes of season 1 are better or the first season of season 2 are better? What do we think? Star Wars Politics was up. I'm gonna need therapy when this season is over. Well, it's going to be pretty sad, that's for sure. A lot of these people are going to die. Yeah. Yeah. I don't worry about all those reviews. They're full of shit these days anyway. Okay. Valid. I mean, these are the same people that did give. Actually, no, that's not true. Hang on. Let's look up something else. Star Wars projects, Rotten Tomatoes. If there's just a list of all of them, that'd be nice. Oh, there is. Perfect. Okay, here we go. So look at some of these critics' scores for Star Wars projects. Let's zoom in here. Phantom Menace said a 54. That's just wrong. Attack of the Clones says 61. Again, wrong. 18% for the Clone. 18% for the Clone Wars. Revenge of the Sith. Oh my God! Like this is one of the greatest movies of all time. It's at a 79. The Bad Batch is an 88. A 70 or 69 for Solo. 82 for Kenobi. Now this is what I like to fucking see. This is what I like to see, chat. A 98 for Rebels. That's just perfect. 97 for Andor. 84, just wrong. 94, solid. 93 should be higher than the 94. 82, wrong. 90, pretty solid. 66, oh my God. 85, that's way too low. 92 for Star Wars Resistance. 93 for The Force Awakens, solid. 91 for The Last Jedi, and a 51 for the Rise of Skywalker. So pretty all over the place for the Star Wars universe. Pretty damn all over the place, and now Andor sits at a 99, being the highest rated Star Wars project of all time. But going back to this, I would say that season 2 so far is on track to be better than season 1. Absolutely. I think they released the 12 episodes because the Acolyte was crushed before they even introduced the Stranger. I think, yeah, a lot of that does have to play into it. I mean, you can't really judge the entirety of a season without having seen the entirety of the season. And in terms of the Acolyte, I think a lot of people gave up before it even got good, if you will. They had to establish a brand new cast of all characters. And then by the time it made it to one of the greatest episodes of Star Wars ever, people had already checked out or had already made up their mind they were going to shit on this show for the rest of time. But that's a whole other conversation for a whole other time. Okay. The second season is deeply affecting narrative about love, sacrifice, and belief. Again, this is non-spoiler reviews, so they're being very, very broad with their words. But that is desperately dark, even if Star Wars fans know that eventually the good guys will win. So let's talk about the darkness in these first 3 episodes. So I'm going to talk about the whole Bix thing without saying the word, because on YouTube you can't say the word. It's a word that's banned, and you guys can't say it in the chat either. but we're going to talk about the event anyway. There's been some conversations online about whether it was necessary. The necessity of the thing is not really what's the issue, I think, online. I think the issue online is that it's a very serious topic, and it is. And it's almost a question of should it be involved in Star Wars. Now, Andor has always been a more adult Star Wars, having darker tones, and obviously Season 1 proved that over and over and over again. Now, talking about issues like this, because Star Wars has always been about George Lucas teaching lessons for kids and 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, kids, life lessons. That's what Star Wars has always been about, life lessons of the real world that have been incorporated into this galaxy far, far away with telling incredible stories with these life lessons of hope and evil versus good and all this stuff. The Empire has always been the bad guys. Always. And the thing is, with this, something like such a serious topic like this, doing that in Star Wars, and actually, look, I can't read this article because it says the word too much. I can't say the word on here, so yeah, I don't think it's even worth reading this article because the word is in it so much. But it's Tony Gilroy sort of explaining what's going on. Okay, fine. We'll read it. We're going to read it with just skipping the word. When asked about the big scene, Andor creator Tony Gilroy explained to The Hollywood Reporter that telling the story about war and shying away from this whole stuff didn't feel truthful. So in a war where there's evil people like the Empire, this stuff happens. And really what's going on here is telling that story with Bix, and first of all, allowing her to kill the guy, which is fan-freaking-tastic. She hits him across the head with the metal pipe, and you're like, yes, get him. And then she hits him again with the metal pipe, and then he goes outside and dies, and then she even shoots the other guy. It's setting up Bix's story to be this great redemption, to be this great revenge. She gets revenge on that guy immediately, but she's going to get revenge for what happened to her in Season 1, too. The torturing stuff. Like, I get it. It's a very weird topic to talk about and a very weird topic to see and something that people don't really feel should be in Star Wars. But the same could be said about her being absolutely tortured. Her mind is so messed with that she's having nightmares of Gorst coming into her room and grabbing her feet when she's sleeping. Like, that stuff is just as dark, I would argue, as this stuff we're talking about. The torturing and stuff. And torturing, the Empire's been doing that to Han Solo and Leia for years. So we just don't really see it as much on screen. But that stuff is just as dark, just as bad. And that stuff happens in this Imperial era. So it's pretty much proving the point that the Empire is still bad, and they're as bad as they can be. But a character like Bix, characters like Cassian can stand up and rebel. And it's almost making you hate the Empire even more, as you should. So there's an argument to be said, like, should that be in there? Yes, no, maybe. I get it, for sure. It's a very dark topic, but Andor has been covering those very dark topics this entire time. So it's not that big of a surprise to me that this was in there. It's honestly more of a big surprise to me that people have reacted the way that they do. Because it's not like it happens, first and foremost, and Bix kills the guy. So I feel like it should be more of I get that it's hard to phrase these words, Jet, without actually talking about it, you know? It should be something that obviously is explained, and it comes with the effects of the Empire. But we should be celebrating the fact that Bix beat the living shit out of the guy, quite literally, because he dies. So Bix wins, and that's the good thing. And now Bix is going to go on this crazy revenge tour built off of the fuel of that. So again, I say it's great writing. I really didn't think that it was going to be this talked about. Like, I knew the Brasso stuff was going to be talked about because it's his death and how that's going to be a huge catalyst for the rest of season 2. And this whole, it's Cassian's best friend type deal. But this stuff with Bix, I really didn't think it would be the big deal that it's become online. Like, it's a very serious and serious conversation to have, but I didn't think it was going to be that way, you know? I don't know. Tell me in the chat, what are your thoughts on it? Without, of course, talking about it specifically. But let's keep going. So yes, dark tones have already been established in this second season. Clearly. Here's some other ones. For comparison, the first season of Andor stands remarkably high on Rotten Tomatoes, with critics saying at a 97%. So it's too higher, which gathers ratings from users that sit at 87%. Oh yeah, sorry. This is the audience score, 87%. In comparison to recent Star Wars shows, The Acolyte has a 78 on Rotten Tomatoes score. The Acolyte has an Ahsoka has an 85, and the Kenobi series has an 82. And finally, in comparison to some April other big TV releases, Andor currently sits above The Last of Us Season 2. Whoa. And Disney and Marvel, other hit, lands below it as well. And Daredevil Born Again, 87. Actually, that makes sense because got a 99 on Rotten Tomatoes. To earn the certified fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes, a movie or TV show must receive a positive review of 75% of all gathered ratings. Must be a minimum amount of over 20 reviews for a TV show. And 5 of them must come from top critics. With the 48 reviews currently at a 98% satisfactory rate, this show is eligible to meet those requirements. So there you have it. There you have it, chat. Very high praise for this second season of Andor. Let's go read a couple more reviews, actually, because now so that was when there was only 48 reviews in. Let's zoom in on this a little bit. That was when there was only 48 reviews in, and now there's 70. So let's 76, actually. Andor is a minor miracle. Okay. A streaming exclusive show that is a prequel to a decades-old trilogy that is absolutely essential viewing. Okay, absolutely essential viewing. Let's not forget this. Andor is a spin-off of a spin-off. And honestly, many could argue with the argument of and-bore. You know what's crazy? I really thought the and-bore stuff was going to be gone with this second season because the first 3 episodes are jam-packed with action and great storytelling, and yet I still got comments, and I still see comments online of and-bore, calling this show boring and not, they still think it's just not good storytelling. Hey, I mean, it's not for everybody, I guess, but I thought we were past that. I don't know. Just trying to find something to complain about, I guess. But with that, I continue. Andor is a great show, and it's true for whether you're a Star Wars fan or not. This is a big deal for a lot of fans, too. The fact is, you don't have to have watched all Star Wars to know what's going on here. You don't have to have seen all the prequels and the originals and the Clone Wars and the Rebels and all this stuff. Like, for Ahsoka, I think it's probably smart to watch Rebels and the Clone Wars before you've seen Ahsoka. It'll make your viewing experience a lot better. But for Andor, there's really nothing you have to watch. You could watch Rogue One, but honestly, maybe watching Andor first might make Rogue One even better. I don't know. But it is Star Wars for non-Star Wars fans. It could be, at least. It's a Star Wars spin-off of the strongest claim to being a proper drama. But in season 2's opening triple bill, which is the first 3 episodes, it shows it can do sly, weary comedy too. Comedy. I don't remember too much comedy in these first 2 episodes. Andor wisely never lapses into the lazy fan service that has cheapened so many expensive other outings since Disney took over. That's its second season. That its second season will also B, its latest ensures that for once, quality will trump quantity. So this has been a big deal for a lot of Star Wars fans over the last couple of years, is, of course, the quality of content over the quantity. It's been the same situation for a lot of different studios, Marvel, DC, and etc. Who cares how many projects you release a year as long as those projects are good? And I actually think, in terms of Star Wars content, since Disney's taken over, the quality of content has been the priority. Delaying projects, making sure that these projects are done to the complete and best ability has been made very, very clear. They haven't been sort of stuck to a specific plan or a specific outline for all their different projects. Different shows are 8 episodes or 6 episodes or 7 episodes or 12 episodes like Andor. And I really think that Disney, specifically with Star Wars, has ensured that. Now, they're talking about the lazy fan service of other shows. When you look at a show like The Mandalorian or Ahsoka, that has a lot of that fan servicey stuff in it, if you will. I mean, come on. Grogu, if you're considering that fan service, he's the main character of the show. Or Ahsoka. Ahsoka bringing in the Rebels crew and Anakin. Ahsoka is Anakin's Padawan. I don't really see how that's fan service. Bringing in legacy characters isn't considered fan service when it's necessary to the story. So just because Andor doesn't have legacy characters in it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not fan service. I don't know. The whole fan service argument to me is a little ridiculous. When you're watching Star Wars, don't you want to watch your favorite characters in Star Wars? Especially when they have purpose to the story? I don't know. Seems a little crazy to me. But there you have it. Andor never has the fan servicey stuff. And that might be a bad news for some fans who are holding out hope of seeing Vader or Palpatine. We already know that fans are going to see some familiar faces in this season that we see in Rogue One. Admiral Raddus is in this second season. We know that for a fact. And there's probably going to be even more. But we'll see. Let's see. The messy side of Star Wars is part of the appeal of Andor. Okay, interesting. For once, knowing how the bigger story ends doesn't distract from the thrill of the journey. This is pretty difficult to accomplish. We know how Andor's story ends. We know how so many of these characters' stories end, but it doesn't affect the storytelling at all. Like, even though we know where Cassian's story ends, we can still have this great story. And honestly, that's very important for upcoming projects. Look at the Maul show. Shadow Lord. We know where Darth Maul dies. Actually, his death is incredible, much like Cassian's. He has a great death on Scarif. Maul's death on Tatooine versus Obi-Wan is iconic. But we're still getting a Maul show. Because Darth Maul's story in between, although we know where he dies and how he dies, it's still important, and it still can be entertaining and important to the story of Star Wars. The same can be said about a possible Luke Skywalker show or more story with Luke, Leia, and Han. We know where all 3 of those characters die in the sequel trilogy. We've seen it. But the fact that Andor can pull off this great storytelling, even though we know where Cassian dies, it's proving that that can be done again with not only Maul, but Luke, Leia, and Han as well. So that's pretty good. This is very important. Tony Gilroy's 2-season series is not only an achievement for Star Wars, but an achievement for science fiction storytelling that has few equals. Season 2 somehow is better than Season 1. That's pretty damn high praise. They give it a 10 out of 10 too on this Rotten Tomatoes score. I want to see if there's any like really bad ones. Let's see. Well, I guess there wouldn't be any really bad ones because it has a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. Hang on. I guess not, right? Yeah, we already read some of those. The Star Wars that thinks it's too good for Star Wars side of Star Wars. Whoa. That scared the crap out of me. Still delivers where it counts. The Star Wars that thinks it's too good for Star Wars side of Star Wars. This is the The 7 out of 10? You know what I think about the 7 out of 10? That is the worst review I've ever heard in my life. Hang on. Darth Drafter with a very generous $2 haul says, "Ah!" I appreciate it. Okay, where were we? That was a well-timed Wilhelm for sure. One of the many factors that sets Andor apart from the majority of Star Wars properties is how firmly it kept its focus on regular folk in its universe whose narratives have historically drifted towards the royals. Whoa, hang on, let me read that again. One of the many factors that sets Andor apart from the majority of Star Wars properties was how firmly it kept its focus on regular folk in a universe whose narratives have historically drifted towards its royals. Okay, so what it really means here is it's focusing on the sort of side characters, if you will, the Cassian Andors, the Bixes, the Cyrils, the Dedras, instead of the Tarkins, the Vaders, the Palpatines, the Luke Skywalkers, the Leia Organas, those main characters. It's talking about how Andor is telling the story of the underling, of the side character, and it works very, very well. Yeah. Even if sci-fi or Star Wars isn't typically your thing, Andor ascends above the genre. It's fantastic, timely, accessible storytelling, period. So you don't even have to like Star Wars to like the show. But if you don't like Star Wars, I mean, you should just go rethink your life. Anyway, yeah. Okay. It is what Star Wars and all sci-fi TV can be at its peak, and I hope it's a roadmap for the future of its entire franchise. Wow. Peak sci-fi is what they're calling it there. Andor Season 2 is what Star Wars for grown-ups is supposed to be. I really don't like this whole Star Wars for grown-ups type conversation. I get it. I wouldn't show my kid this show. Maybe I would. I don't know. But I don't have a kid, so I don't have to make that decision. However, there is clearly a difference between this show and Young Jedi Adventures, for example. Those are two very different shows for very different audiences. However, in shows like the Clone Wars, which would be argued to be a kid show, or Rebels, because of the animation style, it's argued to be a kid's show. I would not show a kid Maul chopping off people's heads, Maul killing Satine, or even Kanan Jarrus's death in Star Wars Rebels, or like that sort of stuff. Like, Star Wars is, yes, built for the 13-year-old, as George Lucas always said. But we sit here and act like Andor is something that's so crazy different from the rest of Star Wars. It's not. It's really not. Yes, it's a little bit more mature. It's focusing more on the, I guess, torture side of things with the Empire. But it's still stuff that we've seen before in Star Wars. It's just more of the focus of the series. Andor is right now the best Star Wars thing by a mile, and it feels like the first time they've completely succeeded in making something for the fans who grew up with the post-Star Wars world and not just something that works on nostalgia. Very interesting, and they give it an A+ out of 100. Clearly, they don't know how the system works. Actually, out of 10, I guess, because they go out of 10. I don't know. This is out of 5. What is this ranking system? Okay. But this is pretty high praise. They're saying it's the best Star Wars thing by a mile. Now, a lot of people obviously have differing opinions, and clearly there's people who Clearly there's people who really like the Andor side of things. There's people who really don't like the Andor side of things because it has no lightsabers, it has no force, whatever that may be. So it's sort of a personal opinion-based thing. But to say it's the best thing from Star Wars from a long mile is still very, very high praise. Hang on, we got another super chat. Star Wars Politics with a very generous $2 holla says, this drama, hate, and controversy. I want to scream. Well, yeah, I mean, there's drama, hate, and controversy across all Star Wars. Despite the rocky start, okay, Andor Season 2 comes through in the end, bringing the series a worthy close and its brand of sophisticated storytelling from a galaxy far away. What the hell? Chat, that's not English. But despite the rocky start, so this is talking about the first 3 episodes. Honestly, I've seen some people online really say they hate these 3 episodes, saying it's too boring, it's not quick enough, whatever. It's sort of the same complaints from season 1, so it doesn't really, it's not a surprise. But what I keep hearing is this: Andor season 2, by the end, is some of the best Star Wars we've ever seen, or it is the best Star Wars we've ever seen. It's always seems to be at that point. So all these reviews seem to be saying some similar things, and that is by the end of this second season, and a lot of people keep saying the final 2 arcs of this second season are unbelievable and pull it together so unbelievably well. And to that I say, how? I don't get it. Like, we know where this show is going. It's leading right into Rogue One. We know that. We know where Cassian goes. We know where Mon Mothma goes. We know where all these Saw Gerrera goes. So how is this final 2 arcs really going to be that good? I'm certainly, I can't wait to find out, but like, the question is, with all these reviews saying it's so damn good, how? One of the cool things, I watched Rogue One on Monday to get hyped up for this second season. A lot of the cool things in Rogue One that sort of could connect to Andor season 2, there's a lot of them, but one of the biggest ones is Saw Gerrera. There's 2 things with Saw Gerrera in Rogue One that could play a big part in Andor season 2. The one thing is, he's all mangled up. He's on Jedha. He's all mangled up. He's got robotic legs. Both of his legs are gone. So at some point, somehow, he loses his legs. He gets mangled up. He needs the oxygen tank. Like, he gets, something bad happens to him. Something really bad. So Saw Gerrera is going to go through it in the second season. The other thing is, Mon Mothma, when talking about Saw Gerrera, says something specific, and I wrote it down here. Let me pull this up. She says this. I have a bunch of notes of things that happened in Rogue One that could affect season 2. So Mon Mothma says, Saw left the rebellion after giving them a ton of problems to deal with. That's what she says. So we're going to see those problems. Saw left the rebellion after giving us those problems. So we're going to get to see this sort of infighting within the rebellion between the rebels. Not only Mon Mothma versus Luthen and them versus Saw, but it's going to be more of a parallel to what we just saw in the first 3 episodes of the fight between rebels on Yavin, just at a larger scale. So Cassian has already seen rebel infighting between this one particular group of rebels on Yavin 4, and now he's going to see it at a much larger scale between Mon Mothma and Luthen and Saw Gerrera. Because Mon Mothma's really not going to be happy about Luthen killing off her childhood best friend, Koma, and Saw Gerrera is going to do some pretty crazy things to make it so that he leaves the rebellion, because these problems that they had to deal with. So Cole, with a very generous $1 haul, I appreciate that, Cole, says, hang on, he says, oh, where is it? He doesn't say anything. Well, I appreciate it, Cole. Okay. Josh Drafter with the $2 haul says, I wonder if his legs are sawed off. That's a good one. No, I doubt it. I mean, that would be hilarious. Let's see your notes. I'm not going to show you do you want to really see my notes? It's a white screen. Why is it not? Focus. Camera. Okay. I can read you them. So the Mon Mothma says that thing. In the first scene, Cassian knows who Galen Erso is. So Galen Erso could be in the second season because he knows who Galen is in that opening scene in the alleyway with the guy with the hurt arm. So he knows who Galen Erso is. So Cassian knows who Galen Erso is. Mon Mothma's... Oh my God. Star Wars Politics says, I think the legacy character recast could be Mas Amedda. Interesting. Because Tony Gilroy said that there was a recast of a legacy character for season 2. So maybe Mas Amedda, that's a good one. Some people think it could be Bail Organa too, but I don't know why you would do that. So also Cassian says that that was the first prison he's ever been in, which is just a lie in Rogue One. Galen Erso says, you'll never win. And Krennic says, I've heard that before, which could be a reference to earlier on in the movie when Galen's wife says that, but I just mistakenly wrote it down. Cassian says to Jyn Erso, "You're in shock, and you're looking for somewhere to put it." I've seen that before. That could be something that happens in Andor Season 2. Cassian in the same scene says, "You're not the only one who's lost everything," meaning he's going to lose everything. He already lost his mom and his best friend now, so he's probably going to lose even more. Luthen, his mentor, Bix, his new best friend. In a scene at 1 hour and 17 minutes in, there's a ton of rebels that are all could likely be in Season 2. It's when they have all the rebels together with Admiral Raddus, who's going to be in Season 2, Mon Mothma, and all these other groups of rebels. A lot of those faces could be in Season 2, especially on the base on Yavin. And then I just wrote down, because it's one of my favorite Easter eggs in all of Star Wars, because the Ghost and Chopper are at the Yavin 4 base in Rogue One, but also there's somebody over the intercom that says, "General Syndulla, please report." Pretty cool. So just a couple things from Rogue One that can be directly connected to Andor Season 2. Yeah. Bail's a boring character, but cool. Well, Bail Organa showing up is only more so just because he's a rebel and because he's very involved in this process that leads to Rogue One. So I think his appearance will just be sort of, I mean, he's a boring character because what, he doesn't have the Force and lightsabers and blasters? I don't know. Bail is Ahsoka's handler. That's true. He does have a connection to Ahsoka Tano. I forgot about that because he's sort of the one who brings Ahsoka back on board. For sure. Cassian asks Chirrut if he's a Jedi in Rogue One. That is true. Cassian's old enough to have been alive during the time of the Jedi, right? Yeah. Yeah. Luthen is a Force ghost? I don't think so. Yeah. I want the Empire scene where the Emperor is eating lunch. Okay. From a distance shot, Dedra walks in the kitchen and sees him. Imagine that. The Emperor comes to Dedra's house. That'd be pretty wild. Now, what are the chances now, after the first 3 episodes, do you guys think that we will see Palpatine? Like, the mention of Palpatine right away from Krennic made me think, oh, maybe we'll get a little bit of that. But I don't know. No, Cassian was on Kenari. Where would he have seen any Jedi? Well, he's taken off of Kenari at a young age. How old is Cassian? Hang on. Let's look this up. How old is Cassian Andor? Cassian dies at the age of... Hang on. Okay, he's born in 33 BBY and dies at 1 BBY, so he'd be 32, 33-ish. So he'd be definitely old enough. In his 30s. Order 66 happened 19 years before that. So, yeah, he would be... Quick maths, like 12. So he would have been... How old was he when he got taken off of Kenari? 6? 7? So he would have known the time of the Republic for at least a little while. Yeah. At least a tad bit. Why would history be lost so soon? Wouldn't some people still know of the Jedi? Yeah, no, some people definitely still know of the Jedi, but they were painted to be the bad guys. The Empire made sure that the galaxy thought that the Jedi were the bad guys, for sure. Yeah. Indeed. Okay, well, let's get back to this thing. So I wanted to check this out. Oh, wait, what? Oh, this is pretty cool. Okay, so StarWars.com posted this one. I haven't even looked at this yet, but this is costumes from Andor Season 2. Whoa, hang on. Fix that. Costumes from Andor Season 2. Let's take a quick look at this. The pilot helmets are some of the coolest helmets in Star Wars. So this is pretty cool. Got Dedra's outfit there. Oh, okay. Just that. Her smile is the creepiest thing. We got the wedding outfit here. Oh. Okay. Anybody else think when he pulled out that dagger that he was just going to start stabbing people? Or is that just me? Mon Mothma has a million different outfit changes in these 3 episodes. Not just those 4. A lot more than that. Bix. Whoa, what the hell? Krennic. Let's talk about Krennic for a second here, okay? In the scene where Dedra and Partagas are brought in on this team to go to Gorman, we learn about calcite, this substance that will renewable energy type thing. Is that going to be the thing that they think will power the Death Star? Do they not know yet that the kyber crystals will be the thing that powers the Death Star? And they're just trying to find something else? Because that would be crazy. If they're going to Gorman to really just mine out the entire planet and the stuff that they're getting isn't good enough to power the Death Star, so they just throw it all away or something like that? Or use it for something else, I guess? That'd be wild. Either way, it's still crazy because they're going to Gorman just to pretty much kill everybody. Now, it seems like Dedra's going to be put in charge on Gorman, but Krennic is sort of the overseer of all that because he's also working on the Death Star at the same time. So, what if they're actually looking for kyber crystals? Well, that's what leads me to believe that they're going to go to Jeddah next. Because if they're really looking for a power source for the Death Star, they're going to quickly realize that the calcite just won't do it. And that might be what brings them to Jeddah. Because during the time of Rogue One, they're stealing all the kyber crystals from Jeddah. That's why the Imperials are on Jeddah. That's why the Star Destroyer is there. They're stealing the kyber crystals from the Jedi Temple and from the planet of Jeddah. So by the time of Rogue One, they're looking for kyber crystals. They're getting all the kyber crystals they can. And that's 4 years from now. So over the course of the 4 years, they might be going to Jeddah and going to other planets where they could be looking for some kyber crystals. It'll be interesting. The scientist mentions it's to coat the lenses. Coat the lenses of what? Calcite isn't supposed to power the Death Star. It's supposed to be the lining of something on the Death Star. Okay. So it's built to do something else. Okay. But it still has to do with part of the Death Star, of course. Yeah. Huh. Interesting. So it's almost a side project for the Death Star plans. That's obviously necessary. Yeah, so they need it for the Death Star, but it's not the power to power the Death Star. I get you. Okay. I get you. Okay. That makes sense. But even still, Dedra, in a way, is still working on the Death Star. The super laser? Okay. I follow. Well, let me ask you guys this. Do you think, oh my God, we're already past 2 hours? Holy, what the hell happened? Did we not just start the live stream, chat? Is that real? Is it already 4 o'clock? What the hell? Okay. All right. Well, let me keep going. Okay. Now I completely forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah. The Death Star is going to be in this second season. But the Gorman Massacre is sort of a canon event that we already knew about because we've heard about it before. It's been mentioned before, and we know that it takes place in 2 BBY. Do you guys think that will change? Because, hang on, let me look it up. Gorman Massacre. Yeah, here we go. So the Gorman Massacre, 2 BBY. And this is canon. So this happens in 2 BBY. We were clearly shown that the first 3 episodes take place in 4 BBY. So that means that next week's episodes will take place in 3 BBY, and the following will be 2 BBY. So it won't be for 2 weeks until we see the Gorman Massacre. Now, however, Tony Gilroy has said that 5 of the episodes of this season will be focused on the Gorman Massacre. 5. So I think that 2 of the upcoming episodes next week, I should say, will be about Gorman. We'll have Dedra there and Cyril there and all that stuff. but it won't be the massacre until the following week. So really, I have no idea what next week's going to be about. Like none. Because if the following week is the Gorman Massacre, and then the following week after that is sort of the backlash of all of that, then I have no idea what next week looks like. None. Saw Gerrera arc, maybe? Interesting. That could be it, because Saw Gerrera is not there. Saw Gerrera goes on his own in 3 BBY, and Mon Mothma flees in 2 BBY. Okay. Stop saying BBY. Why? That's the time period. So Saw Gerrera flees, goes off on his own. So Saw Gerrera goes off on his own in 3 BBY. Huh. So I think then maybe we're getting a shit ton of Saw Gerrera next week. Maybe. Because Saw wasn't even in any of these episodes. And neither was Krennic for the most part. I mean, he was in that one scene, and that's about it. Huh. Okay. Something to chew on until Saturday's live stream. And, of course, Monday's live stream after that. Okay, but I do have to get on out of here. I did not even realize the time. I don't know how time flew by that quickly. How is that even possible, chat? I don't know. But, by the way, 62, wow, we were pretty split on this. 62% of you guys think that he was protecting Kellen, while 37% of you think that Kellen betrayed Brasso and Bix. There you go. Have you watched Light and Magic Season 2? I actually haven't. And that kind of sucks because I loved Season 1. I love all those behind-the-scenes stuff. Damn, I got to watch that. It's just been like the craziest week in terms of the channel ever. I've been sleeping through the days and being up all night. This is the first day that I've had a normal sleep schedule since last Thursday. So my whole mind has been a blur. But yeah, I definitely got to get on that. Definitely got to get on that. It's a great show for sure. Yeah. Okay, but I got to finish my short before 5 o'clock tonight. So watch out for that short at 5. If you haven't yet, go watch the breakdown videos from yesterday. They took me quite a while to make, and I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys for being here. Smash a freaking like on the stream if you have not already. We did hit, I saw somebody mention this earlier, but we did hit 149,000 subscribers. So we are only 1,000 away from 50, or 150. 1,000 away from 150,000 subscribers. And I'm working on something behind the scenes really, really quickly to try and get it out to you guys as soon as possible to celebrate that. Because we got to celebrate 150K, and I got something in the works behind the scenes. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah. Dump the cup. No, that's not happening again. Not until at least 1 million subscribers. Yeah, that's not happening again. But something sort of in reference to that might happen. So with that, and I know it's coming very quickly, so I only have 1,000 to, 1,000 could be a couple days, could be a week. I don't know. It depends on the rate of subscribers and stuff. So I don't know when we're going to hit 150,000, and I don't know if what I'm working on is going to be ready by the time of 150,000. I know. This stream went by so quickly I didn't even get a chance to bring out the Good Cup that follows orders. Can I get some Good Cup follows orders in the chat, please? God. Thanks, Lee. I appreciate that. Okay. But with that being said, I do have to get on out of here, go finish that short that I'm working on to get out by 5 o'clock, so watch out for that. And yeah, smash a freaking like on the stream. What's going on? We got 100 people here, and there's only 60 likes? What's up with that, chat? What's up with that, chat? Smash a freaking like on your way out. I appreciate it quite a bit. Helps me with the algorithm, and I appreciate it. But until next time, hope you have a great rest of your evening. Smash a freaking like. Watch out for the live stream. You know the deal. You know the deal. But until next time, may the force be with you. Always. Oh yeah, what a great stream. What a great show. You guys are the absolute best. I appreciate you all so much more than you will ever know. Dead Mike says, to be fair, we had 3 episodes to cover. That's true. I mean, I underestimate the power, if you will, of all the episodes because it takes 3 times as long to do all this other stuff. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, I appreciate you all for being here. Appreciate you all for being the greatest community in the history of the world. And yeah, hope you have a great rest of your evening, great rest of your lives, and good night, everybody.